Be allowing grade 11 students to enter full-time skilled trades apprenticeships while earning their high school diploma.
By 2026, 1 in 5 job openings in Ontario will be in the skilled trades.
The province hoping this will help address a massive labor shortage as it aims to build 1.5 million new homes over the next decade. Plus,
they need to realize this is a crime. They need to realize that there are repercussions to this crime.
security is being stepped up at several schools in Mississauga and Brampton as police continue to investigate the source of violent online threats. And
I think there's so much noise already from cars and constructions. Why do they care about the dogs, right?
almost as soon as the signage went up, it came down. Why the city decided to remove a no barking sign at a popular off-leash dog park. Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. A big change is coming to Ontario's education system. Grade 11 students will now be allowed to leave school to do a full-time apprenticeship in the skilled trades. The province says it's a necessary step to get more young people into the trades sooner, where there is a massive labor shortage. But as Chris Glover reports, some are worried it could send the wrong message.
At Toronto's Central Tech High School, lots of students are eager to get into the trades.
My plan is to maybe go into a trade later. They have a lot of good courses here for construction and all that.
Up to now, students could do a semester of an apprenticeship in grade 11, but they'd have to go back to school to finish grade 12.
This new pathway will be a game changer.
Today, though, the Ford government announced grade 11 students will be allowed to pick a trade and stick with it. No further high school required, and they'll still get their diploma.
Oh, hell yeah. Well, better for me, eh?
The Premier says it'll work better for the province, helping the government encourage people to go into the trades and hit its target of building 1.5 million new homes. Like, what would that have meant for you?
It would have meant I probably would have been writing my, my final test right now to get my license.
Third-year steam fitting apprentice Tyler Edwards is 2 years away from finishing his apprenticeship. Had he been able to start full-time in grade 11, he'd have enough hours to be a journeyman in just a couple months.
I think it's a pretty good idea as long as everything goes through the way it's supposed to go.
Yep.
The kids should have a good time and get a good start on their future.
You only needed grade 10 back then.
Steam fitter Alfie Cloudou says in the 80s he was allowed to start his apprenticeship in grade 10. Still, he has concerns with Ford's plan now.
You can't just take a kid out of a school class and put him on a job site because he's totally green.
Right.
So, which also means dangerous.
We do a lot of work to make sure that they're safe enough. That part I'm very confident about.
Matt Bradley is the coordinator of the TDSB's apprenticeship program. He says the move brings Ontario closer to Austria and Germany, where students can start an apprenticeship at 15 years old and never look back. For some Ontario apprentices, he says this will be perfect.
Pains them sometimes to go back to school. This will be amazing for that type of student who got their feet wet and they love it, and now they can just go for it.
He also says it'll help close a major labor gap. The province says in the construction sector alone, 72,000 new workers are needed by 2027 to fill anticipated job growth. Still, Bradley worries many students will not be ready by grade 11, and this shift could send the wrong message to all students.
I am a little bit cautious about students jumping into this because they have to do less school as the motivation for starting a career in construction.
The superintendent of this job site thinks the whole thing is a rush job by the Ford government.
They're panicking because they let the trades go for so many years, and now they are moving to just fill a void without a whole pile of thought.
He says it would be better to figure out ways to encourage people in their 20s to switch to the trades, not disputing the urgency of getting more skilled workers in Ontario. Chris Glover, CBC News, Toronto.
Peel police are continuing to investigate violent online threats made last week to 6 high schools in Mississauga and Brampton. The threats have prompted police to step up security for the coming days with controlled access to and from the school buildings for the rest of the week. Dale Manukduk has the latest.
Peel police are continuing to look into social media threats, warning of a plan to attend 6 schools on Friday with the intent to shoot them up.
We understand how concerning this is the school staff, to students, their families, and the community as a whole.
The schools have been identified as Holy Name of Mary Secondary School, Louise Arbor, St. Thomas Aquinas, Notre Dame Secondary School, Chinguacousy Secondary, and Ascension of Our Lord Secondary School. Police are still trying to figure out the source and validity of the threats.
You're looking at IP addresses and you're surfing into the web, so the intricacies are large.
This cybersecurity expert says schools should not panic and that it could be an instance similar to swatting, a problem seen in the U.S.
where people make these fraudulent phone calls with no basis whatsoever, and the police just shows up and they get some kind of satisfaction from seeing this gridlock.
However, if it is a genuine threat, there are many tools at investigators' disposal.
I can't speculate as to whether they're going to be able to identify an individual. The full cooperation of internet providers is to be expected, even when there are no subpoenas.
The Dufferin Peel Catholic School Board is asking parents to speak with their children, writing in a letter, let them know that if they notice any suspicious or threatening behavior, or if they have any knowledge of the specific threat, to report it immediately.
School will go on for the rest of the week. It is up to parents whether to send their children to class. There will be an increased security and police presence on site, and it's being advised that students bring their lunches to school to avoid unnecessary trips in and out of the building. Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Brampton.
An update to a story we first told you yesterday. The Ontario Principals Council is defending TDSB school administrators who have been put on home assignment after a student's mother alleged anti-Black racism. Her son is a student at John Fisher Junior Public School. She says her son was subjected to racist and inhumane treatment by the teacher and school officials, including being locked alone in a small room by the principal earlier this year. Advocacy group Parents of Black Children says it is reviewing possible legal action against the board. A statement released by the Ontario Principals Council reads in part, "We are confident that once this incident is thoroughly investigated, the evidence will show the student in question was never placed in the room depicted in the media reports, let alone with a closed or locked door." It goes on to say, "We are also troubled by the choice of the TDSB to issue an apology on the allegations in this case at this time, given the investigation is incomplete." Now, several parents at the school have signed a letter expressing their support for the school staff. The OPP are looking for a man involved in a dangerous stunt on the QEW early this morning. Take a look at this. This man is seen hanging off of a transport truck at high speed. Police say the video was taken around midnight in Burlington. OPP spokesperson Carrie Schmidt says the driver who took the video motioned to the truck driver, who then pulled over, but the suspect took off on foot. The investigation is ongoing, and OPP asked anyone with information to contact them. Some downtown dog owners say the city needs to stop hounding them. That's after a recent sign placed at the gates of St. Andrew's Dog Park asking residents to not allow their dogs to bark. Telly Ricci has this story.
Most of the dog owners at this park say it's an ask that's positively outrageous.
It's completely ridiculous.
I don't think they could change anything with a sign, right? And it's not that the dogs would read the sign.
It's kind of overkill.
In recent weeks, the city placed a sign at St. Andrew's Dog Park downtown saying, due to the closeness of area residents, do not allow your dogs to bark and disturb the neighborhood.
You have construction in every block. You have fire alarms, you have ambulances. Like, the least thing I was expecting someone to put a sign up for was for dogs barking.
This afternoon, the city was spotted taking the signs down. The city said in a statement that the sign does not meet city standards and has been removed, adding the sign was placed at this location with the intention of helping neighboring residents and dog owners coexist harmoniously. However, the city recognizes that the information didn't meet the mark.
I don't know why it was up in the first place.
I wonder how much it costs to make all these signs. It's just ridiculous. I just wish that they would sit down and actually think about some of the decisions that they make as collectives.
The city also noted that while barking is expected at off-leash areas, excessive barking can be disruptive to neighbors. This dog trainer agrees.
While it's normal for dogs to bark once or twice, excessive barking, that is barking nonstop to the point where people couldn't have conversations or hear themselves think, is actually a symptom of over-arousal during play.
Andre Yu has this advice.
To reduce over-arousal, it's good to mix in some basic obedience training when you're at the dog park. So, for example, you might have them take a break from playing, recall them towards you, and reward them with discrete treats so that the whole park doesn't swarm you for treats.
You got to empathize with the people as well, right? I do understand after certain hours you don't want to, hear dogs barking right outside of your home.
Meanwhile, the dogs were understandably silent on the issue. Honey, are you going to stop barking? What do you think about this sign that says that you're not allowed to bark? No comment. The city said it'll be reviewing its sign approval process to ensure clear communication for future signs. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
Meteorologist Colette Kennedy joins us now with a first check on the forecast. And Colette, it was another bright and sunny day. No complaints here.
Yeah, some really nice sky conditions. The winds not as blustery, certainly as they were earlier this morning or yesterday. And the daytime highs, okay, maybe no records here, nothing to write home about, but some pleasant conditions, especially back towards Windsor with 6 degrees. And, speaking of records, I was looking at Ottawa's record for snow on the ground for this date in history. 1971, 122 centimeters. Just a little fun fact for you there. Yeah, the sun is helping melt a little bit of our snow. We don't have quite that much to contend with, right? So it's still helping to kind of eke away at the accumulations. As we look ahead, we don't have snow in the forecast for tonight or tomorrow morning and through the day on Thursday, but there is another system that's going to be pushing towards us as we get towards Thursday in the overnight, moving towards southwestern Ontario by Friday morning and having an impact into Friday. And I know we're getting close to March break, so I'm going to go into a lot more detail on that coming up for you. Overnight tonight, -5, feeling like -10, and tomorrow afternoon, still some sun in there, but mixing with cloud and a high of 2 degrees, Kelda.
Thanks so much, Colette. The heads of Canada's biggest grocery chains appeared today before a parliamentary committee. MPs want to know why grocery prices keep going up when chains are making profits. Here's what the head of Loblaws had to say.
Loblaw is much more than a grocer. Non-grocery products like financial services, apparel, and importantly, Shoppers Drug Mart make up more than half our business. We've been clear. It's the efficiency of our business and the strength of categories like cosmetics, even cough and cold, that have been driving our growth, not food.
Weston says Loblaw's profit on a $25 basket of groceries is $1. According to Statistics Canada, the price of food purchased at stores went up by more than 11% in the year leading up to January. That's even as the overall inflation rate slowed to 5.9%. The province's financial watchdog presenting a worrying picture of the future of healthcare in Ontario today. The Financial Accountability Office says the shortage of nurses and personal support workers in Ontario will likely last for years and that the province is decades behind when it comes to planning for an aging population. Lorena Redekup has the details.
The Financial Accountability Officer projects the shortage of personal support workers will triple to 30,000 by 2027. The shortage of nurses will improve, but only somewhat. Right now, the report found more hospital patients than ever are being treated in hallways. And the FAO expects capacity issues in hospitals and long-term care homes will worsen, even with extra investments by the province.
You can build the bed, but if you don't have the staff and you don't have the equipment and you don't have the supplies and you don't have the heating and all that sort of thing, that bed's going to sit empty.
The watchdog says it's in part due to an aging population and should have been prepared for decades. The FAO says even the government's plans to add 4,500 more hospital beds won't be enough. They'll be short 500. The financial watchdog also says there's a spending shortfall in health of $21 billion over 6 years. However, the recent deal with the federal government added $10 billion.
The FAO, they only take a snapshot in time.
The Premier gave the same response his government always provides following a report by this office, but also called on the federal government to do more. The Health Ministry says the issues raised in this report are why it's making changes to health care.
We're pouring money into the healthcare system. We gave the nurses a $5,000 bonus last year. We gave the PSWs a $3 increase. So we're throwing everything in the kitchen sink at healthcare.
The opposition parties dispute that.
The steps they've taken are absolutely tiny. They're not, the way I look at it is, it's a drop in a bucket that's leaking like no get out, right?
The report also looked at emergency rooms, finding length of stay increased to more than 20 hours on average. And it totaled how many ERs were forced to temporarily close over the past year.
145 emergency room closures. If that's not a bunch of canaries in a coal mine, I don't know what is.
The Financial Accountability Officer didn't offer any solutions. He says that's not his role. He's interested to see whether the issues he's raising will be addressed in the budget. It comes out later this month. Lorenda Redicomp, CBC News, Toronto.
Welcome back. Today is International Women's Day, and while women are being recognized and celebrated, the day is also about examining what still needs to be done to improve women's rights and equality. Ali Chiasson has more.
The wage gap still exists here in Canada, with women making 89 cents to every dollar a man makes. While we're seeing more women in leadership roles in companies and government, something like the dismantling of women's reproductive rights in the United States reminds us of how quickly things can switch directions. That's something Deputy City Mayor Jennifer McKelvey spoke about today.
In the past few years have been challenging. The pandemic has shone a light on the harsh realities faced disproportionately by women, and even more so by women with intersecting identities, racialized women, women in the 2S LGBTQ+ community, and low-wage earners. It's important that we acknowledge these unequal experiences of different communities.
For Indigenous women, this concept of equity, that's a far reach for us.
While International Women's Day is about recognizing how far we have come, it's also about how far we have yet to go. The Native Women's Resource Centre leads the charge for Indigenous women in the city.
We have been marginalized in different ways and harmed in different ways by systems that aren't designed to include us. And so there's a ton of work that needs to be done. The larger population forgets about us. I think the integrity of who we are as Indigenous women, I think the sacredness of our power, and I think the basic humanity of who we are is often forgotten. And on this day it should be remembered, but every day it should be remembered.
Today, we're hearing from leaders who dedicate themselves to the success and health of all women everywhere.
International Women's Day, of course, is near and dear to our hearts.
Women's College Hospital has been doing that work for 140 years. Equitable access to health care is a big focus for Women's College Hospital right now and their fundraising.
When you think about Black women, Indigenous women, trans women, non-gender conforming people, they have another layer of barrier and access issues to healthcare. Healthcare systems weren't built for everybody, unfortunately, and it's our job really to take a look at those groups and understand what their needs are and develop care for them.
Women working to change systems that didn't initially include them is rewarding work.
I have the best job, I have the best community, I'm surrounded by amazing, beautiful spirits. I couldn't ask for anything more.
And we thank them. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
With a look at your long-range forecast, and Colette, there is another system that will be making its way in toward the end of the week.
Yeah, we certainly are. And, I've been talking about this for a few days and about how for the GTA, it's more like a 3 to maybe 5 centimeters snowfall. That hasn't actually changed. But what has changed is more model agreement now. I mean, at one point, they were all over the place. It looked like it was even going to go north of us, where that'd be the snowfall. No, it's south of the GTA, but that is important for anyone traveling or if you live in these communities. So from the Niagara region, it does go around towards Hamilton, back towards London, Sarnia. Sarnia, you may see some of the highest accumulations actually from this, and towards Windsor, 10 to 15 centimeters. And those winds strong too, so blowing it around the timeline kind of towards Friday morning. For Windsor beginning, like moving in early morning and then spreading. We're going to pick up some of that snow, like I said, into the GTA, but it's probably not till about midday Friday that it will be beginning. Now, it's Wednesday. It's 2 days away. Still a little chance for some changes with that track. So I'll be watching that carefully for you. Come back here tomorrow night and we'll go over it again. There it is, though, moving ahead to Friday because there's not much activity on Thursday. You see this is 3 a.m., so very early it begins. Gets a little bit heavier, especially all along that north shore of Lake Erie. This is midday. Friday now, lunch hour, and there it is, just starting to try and push. Did you notice that? Just trying to push towards Toronto, and it's having a heck of a time. That's why I've really got those accumulations quite low, and we'll see what happens with a little fluctuation here that can change the forecast quite dramatically. Winds, as I mentioned, are going to be strong with this, so I'm picking this up. We're going into Friday. You see some of those wind gusts 50, 60 kilometers an hour, so that is going to make for nasty road conditions as it blows things around. Overnight tonight, not so bad through Windsor, but feeling like about -10 through the Golden Horseshoe, and you'll be at -10 over there towards Kingston, so it's going to feel closer to -15. 2 degrees for tomorrow. There's the snowfall into Friday. And then another reminder for those who need it that the clocks go forward when you go to bed this Saturday, and then we get more daylight into those evening hours. Kelda.
Yeah, good reminder. Thanks so much, Colette. Finally tonight, talk about a crash course in radio production. Two friends were sitting in a cafe in Houston on Monday doing a live podcast when the unthinkable happened.
It got so quiet in here. How did I?
Luckily, no one was hurt. The two cleaned up and continued their podcast. Police are now investigating. There's no word yet on why that happened. And that is our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Maribel Tarouk has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6. I will see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night, everyone.